Heippa hei! Today I have a little reverse canvas video for you. It is done using Finnabar molds and paper artsy paints. So let's get going. I'm first adding some texture to the background of this reversed canvas. I like working with the canvas kind of flipped over because then it makes this instant frame thing, and I kind of like that. So first I'm adding some modeling paste to the background through to stencils. In this stage I'm thinking about kind of machinery of the night, so I'm using these gear inspired stencils to make the texture. When I have that layer done, I then add some crackle paste along the edge of the canvas, kind of making the frame that way. And I'm using thicker and thinner layers there to get different sized of cracks. I then carefully start the actual composition, minding the crackle paste along the frame so I don't get my fingers smudged or the layer smudged. I'm using a chipboard branch kind of as the base for the composition, and then the focal point is going to be this moon crescent. So I'm not putting that first to the canvas, but just kind of sketching the design or the placement. I then use different elements, both metal, wooden and molded, to make the composition. At this stage it doesn't matter what color the items are because I'm going to cover it with black gesso anyway. When I then have the composition done, I let the project air dry quite a long time in order to get those cracks appearing to the frame, but also letting the gel medium that I'm using to adhere the composition to dry and everything to stay put. When the project is then dried, at least so much that everything is cracked along the edge and also the items stay put in the inside, it's then coloring time. I'm using liquid acrylics to color at the frame part, and I'm diluting the paint a little bit because I'm using a wet brush. I'm mixing two colors on this beautiful dark blue one and also a brown one in the frame. You can see me only paint kind of the flat surface in this video part, but I'm also covering the sides in a little bit later stage. I'm also coloring the inside of the canvas using black gesso. Again, I've sped things up and cut away from most of that painting, but you can see me start here and then in the next shot it's all done. Again, I let the layers or the colorants air dry because the molded shapes are made out of hot glue, so I can't use a heat tool that much without them melting, so air drying it is. But after I have those first colorant dried, it's then time to add a little bit more inky night colors to the center of the project. For that I'm using paper artsy acrylics because I really like that they are matte, and I'm thinking of turning the light parts of this project into pearly whites, so that makes a lot of contrast between those two. The paper artsy paints I chose are opaque, so I'm diluting them a little bit to make them a little bit more translucent and also a little bit more fluid, and for that I'm using the same liquid I already used for the frame. So I'm mixing the two different paints together and using them kind of dry brushing with the lighter tone, but with the darker tone that's almost invisible in contrast with the black, just going a bit more heavy-handedly here and there, turning the otherwise black background into this inky night blue. Then again, it was drying time, and after that I'm able to start painting the focal points into whites. I'm using two white tones. The other one is this really stark kind of titanium white, and the other one is really almost softer tone, almost like buff. I'm first coloring with the warmer tone of white and then using the stark white only kind of on the top of the elements. These both are still paper artsy, so they are matte paints, but I'm adding a layer on top to turn them into pearly ones. I'm also adding some dry brushing with the white paints to the background, kind of making it look like the light sources are illuminating the background. So I use this bigger brush, an almost dry brush, and add some highlights here and there. I also add some splashes to resemble maybe stars or like fireflies. To turn those lights and the moon pearly, I'm then using a paper artsy medium called metallic glaze. It has this wonderful shine to it, almost like teeny tiny sequins or glitter, so it really makes a nice effect, contrast to the matte background. I'm using that one also to add splashes. After letting that white paint dry, I then realized that I kind of lost all the features of the moon. So you can't see in the video, but what I did, I added some of that darker blue paint on top, let it dry for a while, and then painted the white back on, but this time using more of a dry brushing technique near the features, so there's the darker tones in the shadow parts, and that kind of makes a whole difference to the appearance of the moon. So he has now some features left. To finish the canvas, I then used two different materials. The other one is these little metallic flakes that I got from my friend whose husband is a metal worker. So these are some kind of copper, maybe shavings, and I'm using just craft glue to adhere them to my canvas here and there. I put some glue to the surface and then use a wet brush to kind of make it not as a blob but more like an area where the copper flakes will then adhere. As a finishing touch, I then add some pearls here and there to highlight that pearly texture of the moon and the lights. So there you have it, inky blue nighttime mixed media canvas. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing, you know the drill. And thank you so much for visiting today. I'll be seeing you within a week, hopefully, with another process video here in my YouTube channel. Thanks again. Bye.